man, find the fun in your fitness. Because some people want to say, "Oh, it has to suck all the time. It should be hard and rigorous," and that's fine if that's what your attraction is. But everybody doesn't have that same affinity. Doesn't want to be getting killed or knocked down, dragged out. You want to go in, you want to move, you want to enjoy your movement, and I think like finding the fun in the process where you can juggle for 30 minutes, an hour, and get a really good workout, or you can go run in the park for 30 minutes, an hour. Same sort of feel, but it's what you want to do. And if you find something that makes you say, I want to go and do this, I want to go and practice, why is that a bad thing?
Would you be able to introduce yourself to the people listening,
Sure,
just letting
let's
people
go, man.
know who you are, what you're known for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, world. My name is Colin Daring. In the fitness world, I am known for, I gotta say, kettlebell juggling is going to stand out the most. Um, what's interesting is I started with a mace bar, which was what really got me into odd objects, which is a gada in India. But in the States, it's a steel mace. They don't use wood as much, which actually made me circle back to kettlebells. I started with kettlebells and just wasn't into it. Then wasn't as appealing as it was. But in research of wanting to learn something new, because I was kind of tired of just being in the big box gyms and doing the same thing, repetition of the big three. You got the bench, the squat, and the deadlift, which is what everybody does. And I was just over it. And kettlebells were something that could have me offset instead of using the bars, I would say, which I eventually incorporated back into my training. The juggling came about just from me researching what people were doing with kettlebells. And I saw some Russian guys on the beach juggling, and I was like, you know what, that is something I can get into. And then, ironically, when I started to do kettlebell juggling, Russian guys who DM me and was like, you're doing it wrong. And my mindset was automatically to say, I'm going to do it different. And speaking to friends, and they're just like, man, whatever you're doing, continue to do because it looks better than what the traditional stuff is happening, which I say that without any sort of disrespect at all, because I am actually learning more traditional kettlebell juggling styles. But I think what set me apart was me saying, I want to be different. I want to do it my way. Um, just on knowing who I am. And my style is more of a freestyle. The bell is kept closer to your body versus away from your body. I use a little bit of lighter weight for that factor. So it just changed the trajectory of what a lot of people traditionally do. And I think they just appreciate it. And then that's how it became popular. Yeah.
So what would you say is the difference or the ingredients of Colin's style? Is it, where does that flair come from? What's it inspired by, do
Man,
you think?
it's inspired by, I was a street dancer, break
Okay.
dancer, and I incorporate not really dance moves, but a dance sort of feel with the kettlebell. The kettlebell has become my dance partner now. So that's why it's a little bit closer. It's a little bit faster. And I'm doing things that at the time were unique to me, like putting the bell on my elbow instead of in my palm as what they call a static for a holding position. And I didn't want to, the static, which is a holding position, kind of stops the pace, where I was always pushing the pace to be a little faster and the movement of the bell. Um, it doesn't go, um, it does go left to right, but at a faster pace. But also, I would put it behind my body, behind my back, where there's a moment of you're not even seeing where the bell is. It's more feeling and awareness. Yeah, so that would definitely set my style apart from traditional styles.
And when you get the kind of the criticism from people that do the
Hmm.
classic juggling, is it
Yeah,
from a place of your form is wrong or what you're doing is dangerous? Like,
it's from a place of it's not traditional.
okay,
It's different.
okay,
And honestly, the the thought of it being different has changed over the years because a lot of people have embraced it. They like the difference, and looking back, it was more of kind of form exactly because it wasn't what they were doing or what they were used to seeing. They would call it circus tricks. So it had a a kind of quote of circus juggling, and then it kind of faded away to freestyle juggling. And they took the circus out, so now it's a little bit more accepted amongst the traditional kettlebell guys. They see it as valid because a lot of people are trying it, and it also brings it's also an introduction for people to say. Um, for me, what I notice is with me juggling has made people think about just using the kettlebell in general, not to do what I'm doing, but just to say, hey, let me see what this odd object is about. What is it doing? So I think it's um I'm looking for the right word.
It's kind of like an entry into,
Yes,
yeah,
a
like
good
an entry into it.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody sees me doing that, they're saying, well, I'm not going to do exactly what he's doing, but I'm
Mm,
definitely going to just give it a try. Yeah.
nice
And I
one.
would say
Nice.
don't start off with what I'm doing, but just learn the basics
Mm.
because I'm way on the far end of the spectrum of basics. So I would always say learn the basics, and then from there, it's just a good feeling sort of equipment to use.
So okay, so I've heard you say this in other podcasts about learning
Mm.
the basics, right? So the
Yes,
basics would be your
your
swing.
swing, clean,
Yeah.
press, snatch, um, how to move your body
Okay.
because the swing is generated from the hips. But if you look at a lot of people that don't know their basics, they're using their arm to just pull the weight up, and it's a
Okay.
bad form and structure. So before
Okay.
you get into any sort of tricks, you need to know how to generate the power from your hips
Okay.
with the kettlebell. So I always encourage everybody to start with the basics first, um, and then from there, man, to just enjoy that process, and then
Hmm.
add the tricks way later on.
Okay. Because I was gonna ask, like if somebody's, let's say somebody has a similar background to you, they like dance, for example, and they just want to, kind of just jump into it and kind of, throw the kettlebell around.
Right.
Why couldn't they just do it without focusing on the basics? But you've kind of answered that in terms
Yeah.
of using your body to generate the force.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
the reason why you
I
focus
can
on the
look
bit.
at somebody juggling and know that they don't know the basics
Interesting.
automatically. Just off of
Interesting.
two swings, I can say
Mm,
he's way ahead of where he should be started.
okay.
And if they message me and ask questions, my initial response is you need to learn how to swing the kettlebell first. Put the kettlebell in a proper clean. You need to know how to do a snatch because the flip is based off of the snatch movement.
Mm,
But it's a sport style. There's two different styles. There's a sport style swing and a hard style swing. You need to know the difference.
mm.
And then you can start actually implementing flips and tricks.
Okay, so I can see some people perhaps looking at your page and thinking that you can just fling the kettlebell, or what you're doing is just flinging the kettlebell.
Yes,
You're not like there's no actual kind of caution to it. There's no
yes,
actual thinking or process to it. But
right.
you've now explained that there is. You need to be able to
Absolutely.
learn how to use your body first.
Yes.
Um, okay. So in terms of when you're dealing with people that talk about the dangers of throwing around the kettlebell,
Yeah,
there is something there in the sense of safety, in that you need to know how to move the kettlebell first, right?
correct. When I'm teaching how to juggle, I'm the one of the first things I do is show you how to drop the bell and get out of the way because some people think the bell's going to drop and it just stays where it falls, but it moves around just from the force of the gravity and the impact. Um, so one of my first things is learning how to drop the bell and, track it with your eyes and jump out of the way. And then after a while, it just becomes natural as you drop the bell to move away or move your foot in a certain pattern. So a lot of people would say, oh, it's going to fall on your foot. It's going to do this. It definitely will, but you're not going to sit there say if you're at home and you have a cup in your hand and the cup is falling, you naturally you're going to get out of the way. It's the same process, the same thought process, and that's what I think people don't connect to the process of juggling. Is the danger aspect is definitely there. I like to compare it to if it's something you love to do. I've been injured doing deadlifts. I haven't stopped doing deadlifts. You know, I've been injured on a bench. I haven't stopped bench pressing. I've been injured squatting. I haven't stopped squatting. So there's always a danger in everything that you're doing. Uh, and I don't think there's more or less risk factor when you know what you're doing when you're juggling.
Yeah. I so one thing that I was thinking about is I guess with the juggling, you're there's an element of there's an element of risk in it that increases from say your usual conventional lifts, right? But
Right.
that element of risk that's increasing also makes you more mentally aware of what you're doing. So like with the
Uh,
deadlift or the, bench press, you can kind of switch off a little bit
right.
and lift too much weight or do too many reps. Whereas
Correct.
with kettlebell juggling, it seems that, you have to be switched on.
Yeah. There's a moment in the juggle where everything fades away. And it could be for a split second or even just a good, 30 seconds where there's nothing around you. You don't see anything. All you see is you, the bell, the pattern that's in your head, and it just all connects. And um, then something to catch your eye and pull you out of that moment. And then that's when you disconnect. Or you can go in and out. It's really I explained it the right way, but you have to do it
Do
to
it,
feel
yeah.
it. Yeah, once you feel that moment of disconnect, it brings you back. You're like, I need more of that. There's it fires off some different type of endorphins that you're just not gonna get. It's almost like a runner's high or a yoga high, but it's a real fast on and off type of dopamine hit that you get. Um, and it may be from the danger aspect or just the thrill of learning the process of trying to make this one catch that you have in your head and you're bringing it to fruition.
What's that thing of the flow state where
Yes,
you,
exactly. The
you're
flow
so
state, that's what
focused,
it is.
yeah, you're so focused
Yeah.
on the one thing that everything else just kind of melts away, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so one of the things that I think people misinterpret with some of these things like kettlebell juggling is it tends to combat boredom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in combating boredom, it makes it something that I think is a positive. Like,
Hmm.
whereas you have the dangers, it combating boredom kind of
It
pulls you
balances
can
out.
pull
Yeah.
balances out and can kind of pull you back into fitness rather than you
Right.
just going through the motions of doing your standard conventional
Yeah.
training.
There are days where all I would do is juggle because sometimes you want to go in fresh and you need all of your energy. And there are days where I would train regular training and then go and juggle after because it gives you that release, that mental kick that I love from juggling is you're constantly figuring out a process of how to move the weight the best way, the safest way. Um, Sometimes it's you've done one trick so many times that you see yourself doing it in a different format or doing it in reverse. And then that becomes another layer of you trying to practice and create new moves. So this the movement patterns are just endless because the connection and how to figure out how to make the connection between the tricks and the flips, turning your body a certain time, the timing has to be there. It's so engaging, mentally engaging that you always leave feeling um, just aware, just fresh. And it's something I always encourage people to just try, especially if you're scared. You always feel better. At least I always say that you feel better.
And that process that you go through,
Mhm.
your personal approach, is it, do you use visualization? Do you rehearse? Do you like,
I use everything.
okay,
I take myself and watch the movement, and then in watching the movement replay, you can say, "Oh well, if I stepped a little bit more to the left, the weight of the bell would have been behind me. Or if I stepped with my right foot forward, I could have used my left hand to get the bell between my legs." Then there's the visualization of making a mistake with a trick, and then saying, "You know what? That was something that I didn't think I could do," and then going back and following the mistake pattern to create a new trick. And as you get stronger and more comfortable with the tricks, you can add something else to it too. So it's so many different layers. But I do rehearse without the weight. There's sometimes where I just kind of, I know I'm gonna go right. It's gonna come behind me. Left hand is gonna catch back to right, but under my leg. Left hand's gonna come around and catch. So there's a process that you do with just kind of mimicking the movement without the weight, and then apply the weight after.
okay. And I guess like you would, so you have your like an approach that is familiar to you, but in
Hmm.
training other people, in training clients, do you notice like people's learning styles are completely different? Do you ever come
Well,
across that?
what happens is, I'm glad you said that, because what happens is two people can do the same flip and they can look totally different. And it goes back to their style and approach, their strength, their flexibility. And what I love to see is as they develop, they create their own style based on how they visualize themselves. And that is something that people at Juggle can say, "Oh, he learned or she learned from Colin," or a good friend Sean. "Oh, they learned from Sean." You can see the similarities of who taught you and who you're trying to mimic at the same time. Um, I think differently from you. So I'm gonna throw this over my left shoulder and catch it with my right hand. But your thought process maybe I'm gonna throw this over my left shoulder and catch it with my left hand. And that's I believe the beauty in freestyle versus traditional, where you're not locked into a certain pattern that everyone has to do. You can just kind of create your own personality. And that's why I relate it back to dance. Because if we go on the dance floor and we're breakdancing, I'm going to dance one way, you're going to dance a different way, and it's still appreciated. We don't have to look the same.
Yeah. One of the interesting things with dance, so I'm seeing a lot of discussion, or a lot of people that are form police, right?
Yes,
Or health and safety warriors, right?
yes.
Um, and like I've started thinking about dance, for example. No, it's very rare that when you dance, that somebody says that movement is off. You shouldn't do that movement in that way.
Okay, but
So,
I'm gonna just
okay,
jump
go.
in right for a second.
Okay,
You will find that in traditional dance, like ballet.
okay, okay. Yes, yes,
Like
of
a
course. Yeah,
ballet
yeah,
instructor would say, "No, you can't do a pirouette like that," you know?
yeah.
And street dance, you can do whatever you want to do. So
Mm,
that is the difference,
the
I would say, for
difference.
classical juggling, because it feels like a waltz, and
Mm,
freestyle, you feel like
mm.
you're breakdancing. It's street dancing.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I was going to say,
the
go.
four police is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also going back to the whole boredom thing that I mentioned, is
Uh-huh.
it's like I think sometimes the missing link with these arguments about form and health and safety and all of this is that like one of our biggest enemies is not training, is kind of being sedentary, right? So
Yeah.
you need, I think sometimes you need an impulse, you need something that gets you off the sofa, that
Yes.
keeps you engaged. And
Yes.
I
And
can't.
I always say, man, find the fun in your fitness. Because some people want to say, "Oh, it has to suck all the time. It should be hard and rigorous," and that's fine if that's what your attraction is. But everybody doesn't have that same affinity. Doesn't want to be getting killed or knocked down, dragged out. You want to go in, you want to move, you want to enjoy your movement. And I think like finding the fun in the process where you can juggle for 30 minutes, an hour, and get a really good workout, or you can go run in the park for 30 minutes, an hour. Same sort of feel, but it's what you want to do. And if you find something that makes you say, I want to go and do this, I want to go and practice, why is that a bad thing?
Hmm. Hmm.
You know?
Well, your approach is very much is kind of free flowing. It sounds like there's a lot that is kind of on the table
Yeah.
that you do. But is there anything any movements that you avoid that you don't kind of you
Yeah.
don't do?
Well, I had a shoulder injury, so my left
Hmm.
side, I dislocated my shoulder a little bit. So I noticed that there are certain things that I will do with my right arm that I won't do with my left arm, just for protection's sake, to not put it in a position to dislocate. Um, I will attempt it, and if it feels okay, I'll go back and then I'll just keep practicing on that left side to get that area strong. One thing I will say is since I started using kettlebells and mace, I, my shoulder hasn't, man, I better knock on wood. My shoulder hasn't dislocated. And this is in years where
Yeah.
before that, man, I dislocated my shoulder doing pull-ups, you know, like and that's from just going, balls to the wall, just trying to kill myself. And then because I was that person for a long time where, oh, if you're not doing it like this, then you're not doing anything, you know, you're not killing yourself. What are you here in the gym for? And I think as I grew older and traveled and learned different styles of training, my thought process has changed tremendously where, you hear people, I'm in the gym and I'm fighting demons and I'm just like, you maybe you need some therapy, like think about what you're doing right now. You're basically beating yourself up. And if you can't beat yourself up through some sort of demon punishment, you take it out on your clients.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
That also reminds me of the whole thing of like when you reach a certain age, people think you can't progress. And
Yeah.
there's this thought that I have that the way we trained in our 20s, you know, you can't still be training like that into your 30s, 40s, and 50s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it, because you'll damage yourself, right?
It,
And
it,
and
I,
I think I think people that continue on and do well past their 40s,
mhm.
they're just more kind of they're more tuned into their body, right? They
Yes.
know what it needs.
Right.
But
And I
yeah,
think there's a maturity level as you get older and your priorities change also. Your kids get involved. There's work, there's bills, and life is just life. And so your thought process isn't, I'm gonna go and kill myself because man, you still want to be fresh later on. You're not just gonna train hard and go home because nobody's paying the bills. You still have, a life to live. So I think also as you get older, the thought process of different priorities come into play where you're not just thinking, all I'm going to do is just go kill myself in the gym and then I'm going to go take a nap after that. You still got to be fresh for the rest of your day?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. So like for me, I have my daughter. She's going to be 5 soon,
Hmm.
and she's a bit of a handful.
Yeah.
But also I have my day job or the job that I do to pay the bills
Yes.
is
Yes.
it's effectively a manual labor job, right?
Yes.
So with my training, I have to kind of be measured about how much effort I put into the
Yes.
training. I have to be measured about the kind of training I'm doing is more kind of almost like kind of rehabby as
Yes.
opposed
Yes.
to, kind of pushing
And
myself
and
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 going so hard.
with that being said, you can't you the risk to reward isn't there. You can't afford to be laid out with a big back injury because you deadlifting 500 pounds and you
Yes,
pull
yes,
something,
yes. Mm.
because the boss doesn't want to hear I was in the gym going hard.
Yeah,
What you
yeah.
so to be laid up with an injury,
Mm.
um, because you're overdoing it,
mm,
your mind is like, let me take it easy. I gotta go home and take care of the kids, or I
mm,
gotta
mm,
save some
mm.
energy. I need some gas in the tank to go to work. So that's really as you get older, man, those things play a lot in your training also, is
Into your
what I would
training.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I've, s-
look back at younger guys that are saying, "Oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that." And I'm just like, I've been there. I
mm,
know
mm, mm,
exactly what you're saying, but at
mm,
the same time, that's not something I want to do. It's not like I can't
mm,
do it, but
mm.
the risk to reward of doing it isn't there. I train other people, man, based just for the love of it. Tell you the truth, man, it's something I really love to do. I love to inspire people to get out and move, and they don't have to move like me. But I always say, you always feel better after a workout, even when you don't want to work out. Man, you could do just the discipline of 5 push-ups in the morning is a good discipline to have, you know. But just to start, and that's really what I feel like my calling is, to just inspire people to just get moving at any age and feel good about yourself and not worry about what everybody else is doing. Just kind of do what you do and be happy about it, and be in that now sort of space. Appreciate where you are right now, knowing you can still get better, but don't beat yourself up about being better or stronger or something like that. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. And long as you're happy and it's fulfilling for you, then that's all you need, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what other areas of your life is it? Do you think that the kettlebell juggling is like seeped into in terms of your health, or you kind of progressing and improving as an athlete?
Oh, hmm. Kettlebell juggling has seeped into other spaces. Man, I want to say it has made me appreciate just movement in general a lot more than being so rigid in a really like compound movement where you have to be so stable to move the weight, say deadlift or a squat, where you have to be really focused on how you're moving. Juggling has allowed me to um, kind of switch positions, use different muscle groups that I wouldn't use, connecting my mind to my body a lot more with weighted objects flying at you. The awareness level is through the roof right now. So I think that has really helped in just appreciating the movement itself, of all movement right now. Yeah.
Hmm. And you're like going back to kind of like progressing with
Mhm.
kettlebell juggling, like with conventional training, you increase the weight or you increase the
Right,
reps.
right.
So how do you like how do you kind of quantify progress in kettlebell juggling? Is it oh sorry, not that's the wrong way of saying it.
No, you said it.
Let's
You
let
said it. I understand what you're saying. How do you? Okay. First you start with one flip forward, right?
Okay.
And that is like the introduction to to juggling.
Mm,
And then you start to quantify or add layers to
okay.
the juggles by doubling the flip, tripling the
Mm,
flip, the simple flip, being able to put it behind your back, under your leg, over in a mill. The tricks or the juggles elevate as you learn more of the process of how to move the weight.
mhm.
You're never just going to do just one flip forward for the rest of your juggling career. You're always going to add layers, and you as you learn one trick, it opens the door to another trick.
Mhm, mhm.
So there's steps in the process of learning how to juggle.
Okay,
I
but
don't know
you
if I
wouldn't.
answered that correct.
No, no, you have, but you
Hmm.
wouldn't increase the weight. You would, or
Oh yeah,
would you increase the
definitely.
weight?
If you
Yeah.
would, yeah, yeah.
So let's say you unlock a movement. Is the
Correct.
next
So you
step is the
start
next
with
want
you'll
to
start.
increase the?
So you unlock the movement, and you're doing it with a 8 kilogram bell. You'll move to a 12, and then you move to a 16. Then you move to a 24 if you got it. There's a guy that I see juggle with a 32 kg kettlebell. That's 70 pounds, and he's doing massive flips. And I'm like, they call that power juggling. So you can. scale by um, trick intensity or by weight. There's different ways to scale it. But you wouldn't start a regular flip with 32 pounds. You have to learn the exact moment to release the weight to make the weight weightless in that moment for you to turn the handle. And you need to learn that at a lighter weight.
At a lighter weight. And
Yeah.
is there a common weight that you use?
I use 12 to 16 kilograms.
Okay.
That is my
Okay.
most common weight that I use. But there are times where I want to go a little heavier because I want a little bit more of a challenge, and I'll go up to 24 kilograms or 28. Yeah. So there's it's scalable in weight. It's going to reduce the type of trick you can do because of just where you need to position your body to move the weight. The heavier you get, it's going to be more of a hinge pattern. The lighter you are, the more of a sideway pattern.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And how does your like what's the kind of percentage of your workout kettlebell juggling versus your kind of conventional lifts, your deadlifts, your bench press, your
Yeah,
pull
I
up
think
and
it's 80-20, 90-10. I'm more conventional stuff. Um, Juggling for me is more of a fun pastime um, versus my regular training. My regular training is a lot of kettlebell, squats, deadlifts, bench, things like that, pull ups. I do a lot of calisthenics also. Um, that's something that's always just been in the foundation of my training that I definitely will never take out because I feel like if you can move your body weight, you're at your correct body weight.
Wow. So
You know,
in that sense then, is kettlebell juggling something that you would recommend for a seasoned, fitness person, somebody that already
yes,
has, as opposed to
yes.
somebody who's kind of a novice and looking at it and saying that I want to do that? Should people focus on,
Honestly, I would recommend for both.
okay,
Yeah, because the person that's seasoned is going to appreciate the movement also, just because
hmm
it's going to get them off of their back off their bench and just kind
hmm
of moving around and being in a different element. And it can be really challenging, especially when you want to add weight. So it's definitely fun for the seasoned person that's been in a gym, especially if you know how to use a kettlebell to just use it in a different format and a different pattern. It's going to be a lot of fun. The novice, it's I recommend it just for the aspect of getting them moving, and it breaks the fear barrier of I'm doing something new because it's going to be new, fun, and engaging.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's 80 to 90% of your training is the conventional lifts, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
the ten
So
percent is just juggling and moving and having
just
fun.
okay.
Yeah.
So what does your program kind of look like? Do you do kind of the conventional, body part split? What's the
Now my programming is mainly a full body 3 day a week sort of programming. So I'm doing chest, legs, back. Um, I still deadlift, squat, bench, mixing with calisthenics. If I'm doing chest one day, it's going to be push-ups, bench, and then snatch, something, deadlift would be for me, I like to mix the kettlebells up. So it's going to be dead stop swing into a push-up, back up, dead stop swing into a clean squat. So I'm moving everything all in one aspect. So it's full body 3 days a week, and one day a week I would juggle, something like that. Yeah.
what's your nutrition and supplementation like?
Wow, nutrition. Yeah. Well, I've been vegan for a while. I haven't had red meat in over 30 years. So I know people are just like, how you getting your protein? I do a lot of nuts, grains. Um, I do eat some chicken and fish now, but it's not like every single day. I don't take supplements. I probably need to, but that routine of protein powders and vitamins and all of that kind of went out the door when I started doing more unconventional training because the focus shifted from I need to be bigger and stronger to I need to move well and feel good. And I think the bigger and stronger aspects have you focused on more supplements, more protein, where your mind is so set on, I need to build muscle, I need to build muscle. Um, man, I know protein is important, but my protein intake is probably really low, you know, for what I'm doing. And I feel great. I feel fine. And I always refer to from traveling different parts of the world, people don't eat meat and they train hard and they look amazing. And then it goes back for me also if what if I can't afford a steak every day? What do I do? You know? So there's different diets for everybody. And I think you gotta find what works for you per se. Yeah. And that's don't be afraid to experiment,
I'm
you
sure
know?
there's some people watching this who are like, oh,
Yeah.
what's Iffy gonna say next? Because basically,
Yeah.
I say in the last 2 years, I've
Hmm.
become quite meat based. So I'd say
Yeah.
70 to 90% of my diet is meat based, and I'm
Wow.
noticing within this kind of unconventional lifting space and some of the
Hmm.
CrossFit space that they're
Yeah.
quite heavy meat based eaters as well.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, I used to be vegan. I
Yeah.
used to be raw vegan at one point.
Hmm.
I mean, the reason why I got into meat based was because of my mum's ill health. I
Yes.
like connected some dots, and it kind of brought me to this idea of meat based. But
Uh-huh.
I mean, if people are healthy and they don't feel a need to change their diet,
Right.
I'm not someone to kind of push it on them. But
Yeah.
is veganism, is it from your point of view, is it an ethical thing, or is it just a health thing, or both?
It's not an ethical thing for me because I was raised eating meat. My grandfather had a slaughterhouse. So it's more so figuring out what works for you. Like if you're eating meat, I'm happy for you. Like if you like it, I love it for you, you know? So I'm never the one that's gonna say, don't eat meat, save the animals, all this other stuff. Half of the even for vegan, man, half of the stuff you eat, if you're eating like these processed sort of soy patties and things like that, you don't even know what's going in there either. So there's just a I like natural foods. I like to cook. Um, I eat oatmeal like every single morning. What was interesting for me in thoughts of being vegan is the gladiators in Rome. Like gladiator actually meant grain eater because these
Oh
guys
yeah,
were
because
slaves that were doomed to die. So the masters weren't feeding these guys red meat; they were feeding them grains like animals, and they were powerful, strong men for the most of them, and they had a vegan diet for the most part. So for me, it all boils down to whatever works for you. Yeah, I'm
yes,
never I'm
yes,
never the one to
yes.
be like, don't eat meat, eat vegetables. Figure
Mm.
it out. It's not for everybody. Um, yeah, man. If it works for you, I love it for you. That's just where I'm at.
Yes, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. And like, I guess clients also may come to you with suggestions of, what to eat. Do you kind of
Hmm.
pass and say that you kind of deal with the physicality, or do you just say
I um
what works for you?
I tell them what works for me. I ask them what they're eating. It's usually they would normally be like, they're drinking soda or something like that. And I would just say, hey, cut some soda out of your diet, cut the fast food out, try to cook more, introduce some vegetables. The amount of people that don't eat vegetables or drink water sometimes is staggering. It's really interesting to listen to somebody say, I don't like water. Like drink some water. And I always encourage people to try to fast, even if it's for like 6 to 8 hours, to just gain some discipline. Also, there's a discipline in that of not needing to automatically feed your hunger. Like just to say, all right, I'm hungry right now, but I'm gonna wait a little bit and see how I feel. So that's usually my food suggestions. I'm no nutritionist because it's hard for me to say, hey, don't eat red meat when somebody's, they want a bacon and egg sandwich in the morning, and that's just the way that they live, and I respect that. So eat what you eat. Make sure you train. Movement is important. Um, but try to fast every now and then. It does something to kind of clean out your body. And yeah, I don't give a lot of nutrition advice just because my way of eating is definitely not for everybody.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of nutrition, kind of exercise, different movements, are there people that influence you? Are there people that you kind of follow that, are kind of like top of your list?
Hmm. Man, what's odd for me is I try to gain influence from everything. So even if somebody's eating meat, I'll be like, well, I won't eat that. So that's influencing me not to eat meat. Or there's somebody that has a vegan plate and it looks really good. I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I'm trying to make that. So I don't look at um food wise. That's where I'm at. But like there's good and bad. Sometimes, man, somebody can cook a steak and I'll be like, yo, that looks really good. But I know I'm not eating it, but it's just influencing me to maybe think of a different way to prepare some meals with the flavoring, I would say. As far as movement, man, I get influenced by a lot of like even really strong guys. Like they're benching 4 plates. In my head is saying, I'm not gonna bench 400 pounds, but I should be able to pick it up. So that would motivate me to go and keep a certain amount of weight on a deadlift, right? So that'll motivate me. Then there's people that juggle and they're thinking of movements that I wouldn't think of, and I'd say send them a message, man. I got to try that move. It was really good, So there's influence all around us. Is really what you look at. I'm never looking at somebody and saying, "Oh, that's stupid." You know what I mean? That's just not my mentality. Yeah. So I'm always influenced from all kinds of aspects, all kinds of walks of life.
Kind of like going back to the whole kind of work thing.
Hmm.
Like, what would it take for you to do this full time? Like, you're making a name for yourself.
Mm.
People are seeing you from all over. People are wanting to come and train with you. So
Yeah.
what would it take for you to do this full time?
Man, I always say when the timing is right, it presents itself. Yeah. So there's no like key moment that I need to work towards for it to happen because people think that, it's like an overnight success, but they don't see the 10 years before that day where it just clicks. So I think when it clicks or if it ever clicks, I'll know when it's right to make the move and do it full time.
Yeah, man. I mean, is there anything that like maybe you haven't covered in other podcasts, other interviews that you're like, oh man, I wish I'd said that? Is there anything that you kind of want to say to the
Now, off
people?
the man, I would say, man, just be happy in the now. That would be my last message. Yeah, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You don't have to be that person. Um, a trainer be on there, let's ranting and raving. Take that with a grain of salt, man. Just do what makes you happy and enjoy your process. Enjoy your training. Yeah,
No, I love that. There's
yeah,
a saying, there's a phrase that I used to say, which is carry your license to play at all times.
yeah.
And I think I think I just would say it rather than practice it. And like
Hmm.
looking at your page,
Yeah.
looking at, some other members of the wolf pack as well, it's kind of
Yeah.
like inspired me just to be a lot more free with my training,
Yes.
which is kind of reinvigorated my fitness, I
Yeah.
like, you kind of know you have to do it, and it feels almost prescriptive, like, taking,
Hmm.
brushing your teeth, but
Yeah.
now, like when you kind of reignite something, in someone, it makes it a lot more fun. So I appreciate all of that you do and the
Nice, man.
team
Thank
does,
you.
man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, Colin,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and also thank you so much for repping the physical t-shirt, and also
Yeah.
for there's that little kind of speech that I did that you
Hmm.
did a little kind of movement video to. That was
Yeah.
awesome, man. I
My
appreciate you for
pleasure,
that.
man. My pleasure,
I
man. Love
appreciate
the
you for that.
support. Yep.
Yeah, and thanks for the encouragement also in our messages as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you mess with me, like, man, don't even think twice. Do it.
Just do
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Just do
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
So what does the rest of your day look like?
I'm gonna train a little bit and then do some billing and try to take it easy. Laundry. It's life.
Okay. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. The
Yeah.
the the bits the bits they don't see on the Instagram, right?
Exactly. And what's crazy is everybody wants to see those that behind the scenes. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
you don't need to see all of that. Just look at these juggles and then because they
Maybe
people want
maybe
to see what you're
occasionally,
doing. Yeah, I noticed that.
you should do like
Occasionally,
a vlog thing, like
yeah,
a video log thing, and just
yeah,
show people your a snippet into your day to day.
yeah. I think about it. Yeah. I think
All right,
about it, but
well,
I hear it all the time, man. But people,
yeah,
for whatever reason, I used to do this thing called tea time, and I would drink some tea early in the morning and kind of just listen to the news, and everybody loved that. So everybody, I still get messages like, "Man, bring tea time back," and I'm just like,
bro.
I'll
Yes.
do it every once sparingly, yeah.
Okay, well, the last question, the common question that all podcast
Uh,
people ask is, where can people find you online?
yes, I'm mainly just on Instagram because it's easy to manage, and it's Daring 101, DARING 101. You want to see some different sort of approaches to using a kettlebell or just having fun with fitness. Tune in, check me out.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, Colin, man, thank you so much, man. Let me leave you to your day. Let me leave you to your
Yes.
laundry.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Blessings, brother. Thank you so much.